Today I am going to give my thought on Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya's place in modern Indian history. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya gave his clear-cut idea on Sangathan and nation. A remarkable aspect of Malviya's leadership of the national movement was that it went hand in hand with his untiring zeal for facilitating, achieving, and strengthening the organic unity of Hindu community and encouraging its all-round development. Collectively visualized and connoted as Sangathan, as a leader of political and cultural bodies. The case of Sangathan lay very close to his heart. It was the most important idea which shaped his attitude in public life, enabling a fine balance between his reformist zeal and the political goal. It also meant dissolving multiple caste identities as well as ending the practice of untouchability. He did not see any contradiction between promoting the cause of the community and providing leadership to the national movement. In fact, to him, the former seemed to strengthen the latter. It was in this context that he defined dharma in way which connected it with love towards nation. Writing in Abhyuday in 1907, at the time when the Swadeshi movement was at the peak, he made a strong appeal to strengthen the nationalism and explained how constituted a inseparable part of dharma. What is nationalism? Nationalism, that emotion which is present in the heart of every Indian, along with the desire for the country's progress, and before which all emotion are only secondary. To be attached to dharma can never be under any circumstances the cause of deteriorations. Dharma is one which leads to compassion between human beings, generates happening when finding each other in good condition, and extend a helping hand in time of need. This true dharma is achievable through patriotism. Disseminations of patriotism will completely take away selfishness from the heart. At the different level, he saw patriotism as an ultimate stage of selfishness. Patriotism is that kind of devotion in which one would forget one's own self. See his progress in the progress of the nation. See his glory in the glory of the nation. See his life in the life of nation. And see his death in the death of the nation. This is the very good example and explanation of Mahamna Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya of patriotism or nationalism, which is the synonymous with selflessness. Through the leadership of Hindu Mahasabha, Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha, and several other organizations, Malviya emphasized upon a urgency of achieving Sangathan on numerous occasions. In the Gaya 1922 and the Banaras 1923 session of the Hindu Mahasabha for the first time passed resolution taking cognizance of the condition of the untouchables. Presiding at the Banaras session, Malvi succeeded in getting through a resolution which permitted untouchables to study in schools, to use wells, to enter temple, and to sit on the carpet at public meeting. The, Bel- the Belgium the Belgaum Special Session of Mahasabha in 1924 emphasized the need for educational upliftment of depressed section and also made an appeal for providing them access to public wealth. During his speech at this session, Malviji urged Brahmins and non-Brahmins to remove mutual understandings and to become united as a part of Hindu community and common inheritors of great culture. Pandit Madan Mohan Malvi succeeded in convincing the Pandits of Oriental faculty of BHU on the question of Suddhi, Prayashchit or penance for Harjan by taking a bath in the Ganga. These Pandits were not ready initially, but Malvi persuaded them, and at least they could see the political fallout of not reclaiming Harjans. Therefore, Suddhi was started on the Dasaswamedh Ghat, considered one of the holiest Ghat on the Ganges of Banaras on 9th January 1927. On the occasion of Shraddhanand Day, Gandhi and Malviji walked in procession to his ghats and also offered prayer at the Vishwanath temple. Outside the temple, Gandhi delivered a brief speech emphasizing the significance of Shraddhanand's martyrdom, purification of self and of religion, and ceaselessly practicing self-control. Malvi gave mantra diksha to around 400 Harjans at Loha Ghat in Calcutta on 13 December 1928 in the midst of stiff opposition and personal accusations thrown at him. He in fact challenged the opponent to engage in discussion on the propriety of the procedure of the basis of Hindu Shastras. Discussion ensued between the Pandit and Malviji that after a few hours of opposition weekend, the ritual was repeated on 6 January 1929. There were only few individuals opposing him this time. The same was repeated several times at Kasi and Prayag. Mantra Diksha was held at Nasik at 12th March 1936, where around 150 Harjan were initiated. There was a big ceremony in Banaras on Mahashivratri in 1936. A grand procession of Vedas and other scriptures passed through the streets, following by Pandits and Harjan, concluding the Dasaswamedh Ghat. When Malvi addressed a large meeting, this was followed by Mantra Diksha the next morning. Hindu-Muslim unity. While giving a call of Hindu Sangathan, Malvi felt that achieving Hindu-Muslim brotherhood should be the duty of every Indian. They were couple of logic attached to such a vision. First, organic unity among Hindu would facilitate greater camaraderie along the communities, and second, focusing on the Sanatan Dharma by Hindus and on the essence of Islam by the Muslim community would bring greater peace and bonhomie. It was the lack of religiously in the sense of dharma rather than the excess of it. He argued that had brought miseries of the countrymen. At another level, he intrinsically linked at this idea to an unwavering sense of patriotism. Speaking at Lahore on 26 November 1922, Pandit Madan Mohan Malvi lamented the deterioration of Hindu-Muslim unity during and after the communal right at the Muslim characterizing India as a pious land. Malvi defined the duties of every patriot. Bharat is our land of birth. We are all Hindustanis. Every corner of this land is a sacred. It is our duty to welcome every Hindustani and help him in distress. Every Hindustani is our brother. If this kind of love for the country is felt in our heart, then there will be no incident similar to what we have seen in Lahore or Multan. This love for Sangathan was intrinsically linked to his desire for spreading oneness amongst all. Hindus, please understand. Muslims do also must understand. Khudas, Paramatma and Akal Purav are one and the same. The Maulvi, Pandit and Gyani Granthi has ever shown them as separated. The God of Musliman is the same as that of the Hindu. We all are the creation of one God. Our third relation is that belonging to the same country. The countries of Musliman outside India is Arabia, Persia, Turkestan, Iran or Turkey. But the country of India's Musliman is India only. My submission is that the people out of weakened unity are actually those who are not concerned about religion. Speaking at Lahore on 28 June 1933, Malviya asked for a communal unity, which he argued was the first step towards freedom. It is no less shameful for all of us to look upon the foreigners, to vouchsafe our safety and interest. I have great faith in the religion that I follow, but my head bows down whenever I pass my church or a mass. My head bows down with the reverence of them unknown to me. Day after his death, when the news of the tragedy in the Bengal filtered in, he advised the Hindus in provinces where they were in the majority to provide protection of their Muslim brother and strengthen and sangathan themselves in minority provinces. Gyan Chand, professor of economics at BHU, a later Nehru's economic advisor in independent India, recalled that though there was a vague feeling in favor of Hinduism and Hindu civilization, communalism never became an important factor in the life of the Hindu university. Kripalani felt that Malvi was orthodox in his ways but never communal in his approach. Certainly, he did not want that injustice be done to the Muslims. He followed his own religion. But I do not think that he was communal in the sense that he would want the whole India to be Hindu India, in which the Muslims should have been no place. He did accord the appropriate place to the Muslim in India. He wanted to have cooperation with the Muslim. He never wanted any injustice to be done to them. Malviya was clear that India is a dear to Muslim in the same way that it is to Hindu. But the communities live in the country and shall always remain so. The more the two communities stay united, the greater will be our strength in developing the nation, and greater the animosity, weaker shall be he become. The country will march forward only when these two strive to attain development while staying united. Conservative or liberal, Malvi was deeply rooted in Indian tradition, but also open at the same time to the everything that was the scientific and modern. The barometer being the suitability of the idea or the system to the progress of India as a nation and its usefulness in achieving organic unity of the Hindus. In a useful collection of Malvi's speeches and writing compiled in 1919, G.A. Natson Apply remarked, many think and class him as a conservative, but they are mistaken if they believe he is crude, narrow, or obstructive. On that account, he is liberal, broad-minded, open, refined gentleman, but believing in the religion and spiritual wisdom of the forefathers, not only in appearance but in his daily life and practice. He is simple and unassuming, courteous, and exceedingly fair-minded, even to those who differ for him. While they promoted Hindu Renaissance in all its dimensions, it was careful not to imbue it with irrational superstitions. He was committed to the development of science and technology, and was also a votary of science temper. N.C. Kelkar, a Congress Swarajist Hindu Sabha leader, pointed precisely to his significant symbiosis. He looks at Hindu Renaissance in all aspects and in all its details without being averse to the assimilate the light and spirit of a new scientific age. He has done all that was in his power, either to rehabilitate or to consolidate the fragments of Hindu culture that were not at last. He has an all pervading blessing to bestow upon every institution and individual that makes to the assertion of Hindu life and culture in its pristine purity. Hridaynath Kunjaru, a prominent leader of Congress and a liberal party and later a member of Indian Constituent Assembly, made a fair analysis on Malviya's idea on the religion and how they could be made more useful for human welfare. The religious matter, his thought were a mix, Shastric, authentically, and liberalism. His interpretation of the essential principles of Sanatan Dharma was definitely very flexible. Feeling for humanity, universal love, and selfless dedication of human development. This he considered a essential principle of Sanatan Dharma. The prospectus of Hindu University in 1905 described the aim as promotion of scientific, technical and artistic education combined with the religious instructions. A classical culture, in his address to public meeting at Meerut on 17 October 1911, held connection with the Hindu University. The Maharaja of Darbhanga, while appreciating Malvi's energy and unrivaled power of organization, clarified that the proposed university would not be identified itself with any sect or creed, but it would be impart religious teaching to the boys according to the religious form professed by their fathers of their guardians. In 1915, during the introduction of Hindu University Bill in the Imperial Legislature Council, Malvi ji clarified that the university would be denominational institution and not a sectarian one. Defending the provision for compulsory religion education, he felt its influence to the ever enabling. I believe that where the true religious spirit is included, there must be elevating feeling of unity, and where there is love of God, where will be greater love and less hatred of men. It will not promote narrow sectarianism, but a broad liberation of mind and religious spirit, which will be promote brotherly feeling between man and man. At the foundation laying ceremony of Hindu University, Malvi asserted the requirement for preserving the nursing the finer precepts of our old civilization. We cannot divest ourselves of the consciousness that we have inherited a culture and civilization of our own, which reaches further back in time than that of any other people, and which possesses, as we believe in the special degree, the elements of social stability as well as the fundamental principles of physical, intellectual, and spiritual progress and welfare amidst all the vicissitudes through which Hindu society has passed. It has in all essential clung to the civilization and has ever been governed by it. Though religious instructions was compulsory for Hindu, he was not for the non-Hindu, and later even Hindu student could opt out. Subjects like Oriental learning, theology, and Ayurveda were offered along with such modern discipline like medicine, surgery, mining, metallurgy, and industrial chemistry. Apart from this, university allowed to free discussion on varied subjects. In a letter to Gandhi, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, who joined the Hindu University as its vice chancellor in 1939, after strong and skillful persuasion by Malviya's emphasized that the university had students for all parts of India and from all communities, Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Sikh, Muslim, Christians, Parsis, were being inspired with the noble idea of patriotism and loyalty to the great ideals of Indian culture. Since India is neither a race nor a religion, but a culture which embraces all race and religions. It was a moral and liberal streak of Indian tradition and kept the illuminating and outer word of Malviya's and impacting his worldview. The close associate V.R. Rao recalled that orthodoxy in Malviji was nothing more than righteous self-discipline prescribed by the ancient text. There was not a slightest trace of bigotry, fanatism, and intolerance in him. Similarly, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur felt that though Malvi remained the orthodox till the end, in all matters of social reform, he was most progressive. He was especially drawn to him. By his indignation at the many disabilities from which India women suffered. Malviji considered superstitious belief in antithetical to the vitality of community. He pleaded that attempt to move forward would be successful only when he take women along. For the regeneration of community, he clarified it was essential to fearlessly and enthusiastically undertake the education of women. M. Visvesvaraya highlighted Malviya's flexibility in the context of people welfare and strengthening of India nationhood. This flexibility he felt enabled Malviya to move out the restrictions imposed by the traditionalist background. A man of deep culture, broad sympathies, and interpret the selfless worker. He is popular with all classes. To his countrymen, his European opponent know that he is clean fighter and respect him on the account. The Indian princes regard him as this friend, and while he is the ideal of his orthodox countrymen. He is not unpopular with the reformers. He is no bigot. His attitude of late years toward the untouchables and depressed classes has undergone a remarkable change in their favor, and when duty to his country demanded it, he readily crossed the seas to visit Europe. His chief claim to the confidence and gratitude of his countrymen in his intense concern for their welfare. The enthusiasm he has roused among them for the national objects and the impetus he has given to the nation building, a noble and lovable personality, a, a staunch Hindu and a great Indian. All he thinks of all the words for or interprets of his community and country. In this interest, he is giving every moment of the waking time.